that's important as well. So I want to recognize the junior board. It's extraordinary to pull off an event like this, and you are making a difference in girls like Maya in our own community. And I appreciate all of you for being here, because honestly, every dollar counts so that we can invest in more girls. I'm JoanKuhl, and I'm a board member of Girls Inc. I'm the author of Dig Your Heels In, which you're all going to get a copy of, and it doesn't even get published for another week and a half. But I am also really passionate about investing in girls and advancing women in the workplace. So just like the way the book is structured, I wanted to give you the case for change, because honestly, this isn't just the nice thing to do. This isn't just the good thing to do. This is the smart thing to do for women and men everywhere. I've learned that by conducting research all over the world with some of the biggest organizations, even some of the smallest. But I also want you to know how to make it happen, because you can make a difference each and every day, wherever you work. And then ultimately, I want you to understand how you can make it worth it, because you have big dreams. You each have goals. And so connecting those to moving the needle on this issue is honestly my challenge for you today and my goal. So let's start with this business case for change. You know, women are a powerful force in our economy as consumers and as talent in our workforce, right? We dominate decisions from healthcare to housing. Yet, we are not at the seat of the table where those key decisions are made at every level, from the mailroom to the boardroom, and that's a big deal. So, you know, when you think about day-to-day decisions and think about your experiences, whether it's a health crisis or something's happening in your family, if you don't have the opportunity to express your perspective, your voice at work, we don't unlock innovation. And women are good for business. So boards that go from 0 women to 3 women have been associated with a 15% increase in profit. And all those, the companies on Fortune's most admired list, they've got twice as many women in senior leadership than the less reputable companies, because women are leading inclusive culture, working on policies, whether they're flexibility or family leave. So we're good for business. McKinsey even says if we accelerate this work for gender equality, that we can add $12 trillion to the global economy by 2025. This doesn't make sense while we don't have that seat at the table. So what can you do about it? So for me, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and there was a chunk of time in my childhood where it was just my mother and I. And so that obviously had a huge influence on my life. And I watched my mom take a lot of risks to develop herself so that she could get bigger, better jobs and provide a brighter future for us. So whether it was moving from being an inner city Philadelphia teacher to taking on multiple jobs and being a secretary at Temple University to advance her education, and then ultimately logging miles to get her pilot's license. I sat on a stack of telephone books next to her, so that she could break into the air traffic industry, male dominated, but it tripled her income. It gave her enough savings so we could move out of my grandparents' home and buy an apartment outside of Philadelphia. But guess what? The bank said because she was a single parent, a woman, a single mother, that she was high risk, and they added 2.5 percentage points onto her interest, her loan. That's crazy, and that's decades ago, but things are still happening. Bias is showing up all over the place. I wrote an article last week for Forbes, where I'm a contributor, about NASA's decision, which ultimately held us back from a historic moment of having an all-woman spacewalk. Why? Because we didn't have another suit for the other woman. And so, NASA said, hey, we designed these suits with, unisex men and women in mind, but, the 2013 class, highest number of applicants, had an equal balance of women and men. You didn't think one day that there might be 2 women walking in space? We could have another medium or small on hand. And as I did research, I realized that this is what I'm talking about. This is how real it is, kind of the bias of not having her perspective about what she needs in all different professions. The International Association for Women in Fire and Emergency Services found that 80% of women, so firefighter women, that they feel like they have ill-fitting equipment that puts them at risk in their department. That's insane. So back to what can we do about this? So I like to put it out here like this. There's really 3 key inflection points. There's recruitment, there's getting her in the door. There is retention, helping her thrive every day so she's not just surviving, and ultimately advancing her. so that we're represented. So in the recruiting area, this is where Girls Inc shines. That is exposing girls to fields like STEM. No one compares to what Girls Inc does for quota. You know, Maya, I've had 2 live births. I'm a mother of 2 girls. But Maya's actually witnessed a live birth. She's 15 years old because she's interested in the medical field, and there's mentoring programs that are exposing her to female physicians around the city. But in Girls Inc, we get girls excited about STEM. I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to have a number of our girls in a workshop I was leading at Nike. They were the first to raise their hand. They were the first to be the most vulnerable in talking to the girl next to her about their dreams and their goals. They're extraordinary. And then in visiting one of our high schools where we have a strong program about a month ago, I know our content is incredible, but you know what's extraordinary? Our facilitators, trained by Melissa on our team. So our facilitators in that high school, Andrea and Tiffany, it gives me chills just thinking about what I saw. So in one room, Tiffany is talking to the girls, the high school age girls, about sexual health. Like I said, I'm a mom. I can't even pronounce half the words she was talking about without, trying red in the face. So I was awe-inspired, and she wasn't doing it in this authoritative, finger-pointing kind of way. She builds trust. They were asking really personal questions. It was unbelievable. But also, I walked around the room and there were these Post-it notes on the wall because the night before, Girls Inc had been hosting kind of a chat with them about what are they scared about in going to college. That's our goal, to get them to college. What are they scared about? What's on their minds about surviving there? And it was heartbreaking, but also unbelievably rewarding to read those Post-it notes. You read things like, I am determined to go to college because my mother sacrificed so much for me and my brother to come to this country. I'm nervous because a lot of my friends aren't on the path to go to college, and I'm worried that they're going to distract me. I'm scared that I'm not going to have the financial means to stay focused on what I'm doing in school. But I am determined because this is a better future for me. I mean, it's unbelievable. So that's in one room. In the other room, you've got Andrea teaching the girls about data analytics. And so I imagine boring PowerPoints. No, far beyond that. They're talking about gentrification, something really important to these young girls, because understanding that statistics and data would power their case and their ability to influence others about what concerned them about their communities. I couldn't be prouder of this program and tell you eye to eye, each of you, that it makes such a difference. So for you, in the recruiting area, everybody can be an ambassador for showing your girls and other women that they can enter your field. On the retention front, and I could go on forever, and I know you need to refill your cocktails, but on the retention front, this is something that all the women and men in the room, I really want you to hear. Just last week, I led a workshop at Major League Baseball, the Office of the Commissioner. Both men and women, 150 people, filled the room. And this is what I say about this. Sometimes the bias that's holding women back is completely unconscious, and sometimes it's deliberate. So you have to be aware of these scenarios. For example, how many of you are in that culture where you're at meeting after meeting all the time, right? Well, men interrupt women 3 times more than they interrupt other men. If we don't get the chance to talk and share our idea, how is that perspective going to be on the table? And ultimately, you get penalized at the end of the year in annual performance for not being seen as a valued contributor. So we need each other to amplify the voice of other women. Another example, let's say that a woman is up for a high-profile assignment and somebody says, this really isn't the best time for her because she just had a baby. Maternal bias, the motherhood penalty, is the worst, one of the most significant bias for women. So women, when they become mothers, are looked at as less committed and therefore less competent. She deserves the opportunity to make that choice for herself, because we don't make that choice for fathers, for men. So we need to think about these scenarios. The other is thinking about advancing. So then we move into advancing women, right? So women oftentimes are judged and evaluated on their proven experience, their track record, what results did they deliver, whereas men are evaluated on their potential. This happens. There's no finger pointing to anybody in the room, but I know this from research. So we just assume men have the skills, so we're looking at how far can they go. You just being aware of these things, that's step number 1. Step number 2 is doing something about it. Feeling comfortable. And that's why I lead these workshops and give you the script and the tools so that you can have this dialogue. This is how we disrupt this culture. The last thing I want to leave you on is that one of the core ingredients for us to move the needle here is about relationships. So I go back to my childhood. What did I want to be when I grew up? I wanted to wear business suits and live in New York City. Really ambitious, huh? And like no other specific other than that. My mom didn't know anybody that wore a business suit. She certainly didn't know anybody that worked in New York City. So she enrolled me in after-school programs, youth leadership programs, like Girls Inc, whether she was driving me to Philadelphia or halfway across the state, because she knew I would meet people like you that were professionals volunteering that maybe did wear a suit and maybe did know somebody that worked in New York City. And that's how I was able to chart my dreams and make it a reality, something that was accessible. You can do that. So the sad truth is that women, 90% say that they don't have a career sponsor, that person to accelerate them, that's in an influential position, that can advocate for their pay and their promotion. 8 out of 10 women say they don't have a mentor. And 6 out of 10 women say they don't even have a role model. That's not even someone you have to have a relationship with. That's just somebody you look up to because of their values or something inspires them. So it's my mission to change that and to ensure that all of our girls, us as women, we have access to those relationships and they're mutually beneficial. So that's the third point, that inflection point that I believe that we can all have an active role in. So kind of pulling this all together, I am so grateful that you're here to hear our story about Girls Inc. But I think together, we need to arm girls with the leadership skills, the courage and the confidence to go after these goals and to stick with them because they're not in an environment that's trying to break them down. And each and every day, wherever field you're in, you can make a difference. So this conversation and more, I also wanted to invite you that my book launches on April 16th, Dig Your Heels In, and so we're having a special celebration. It's also a fundraiser for Girls Inc. So you'll learn more about it. I'll pass it on to the junior board. But again, my sincere appreciation. I think together we're gonna close the gender gap for good. So.